Integrity has been given a
moral connotation.
a meaning which is not permissible by the English language.
My lord, yes. Because the English language uses the word morality in two senses, and context, as your lordship.
Morality is a different word, integrity is a different
word. And my lord,
you may have integrity and no morality, and probably vice versa.
Yeah.
I don't know.
and my lord, in some of the dictionaries, for instance, Oxford Concise uses the word integrity in both senses. Morality is the first sense, and wholeness is the second. So your lordship will always have to look at the context.
Naturally.
And when it says
In a marriage context, integrity would include morality. In a country's concept, it may not.
In the country's context, when it says a threat to the integrity of Pakistan, means it's a threat to the wholeness of Pakistan.
Also, we have to see the words in context,
Yes.
interest of sovereignty or integrity of Pakistan.
Yes, my lord. So the context is everything. My lord, then when your lordship turns to page 435, paragraph 22, the principle of interpretation of constitution are correctly.
This portion, Samula Baloch, is taking from somewhere else, or it's enumerating itself?
The one which 434, my lord, they refer.
This portion, Samula Baloch, is taking from somewhere else, or it's enumerating itself?
The one which 434, my lord, they refer to the earlier judgments of the Supreme Court in Muhammad Nawaz Sharif and Benazir Bhutto,
where morality was used in the context of integrity.
my lord. But there, your lordship will see, if your lordship turns to page 433,
Ji.
these last two lines, these requirements are implicit in the expression in the interest of the sovereignty or integrity of Pakistan.
They don't use it in that context.
Yes, my lord.
Okay.
And if we move to page 435, the principle that constitution must be interpreted as a whole is correctly identified. And then if your lordship turns to paragraph 23, a reference is made to Article 17 and Article 62 of the Constitution. In the last lines, your lordship will see that there's a reference to the Islamic values in society. And if your lordship turns to page 436, in the middle of the opening paragraph of 436, where a declaration made by a court of law against a candidate for election warrants a conclusion of his misrepresentation, dishonesty, breach of trust, fraud, cheating, lack of fiduciary duty, conflict of interest, deception, dishonest misappropriation to be derived from such a verdict, then it stands to reason that the consequential incapacity imposed upon the candidate for election should last for as long as the declaration is in force. This result follows as a rational consequence of the judicial declaration and from the lack of any time period of incapacity of the candidate being laid down in Article 62(1)(f) of the Constitution. In other words, if the declaration by the court has attained finality, the embargo under Article 62(1)(f) of the Constitution acquires permanent effect. The foregoing aspect of Article 62(1)(f) of the Constitution do not encumber but regulate the fundamental right of political association and action under Article 17, paragraph 2 of the Constitution. And then the last three lines of this paragraph. Consequently, a valid declaration by the court would involve the breach of a legal duty or obligation owed by the candidate for election to another person or the violation of the latter's legal right or privilege. Then a paragraph 25, if your lordship may see the last four lines on page 437. Because here their lordships identify what kind of declaration they are envisaging. Therefore, the consequence of permanent nature, that is incapacity, following a final and binding decree of a court of civil jurisdiction, is the ordinary and lawful outcome of civil litigation.
So Samula Baloch actually clarifies what declaration we're talking about. It's arising out of a civil jurisdiction, and dealing with civil disputes of two parties.
Yes, and therefore, my lord, if they had not, their lordships had not observed that, the disconnect between 62 and 63 was impossible. Because if this was a declaration by a criminal court convicting someone,
It means then a decree must be keeping in view Article 62 in mind.
that is what they envisage, as your lordship
How it
sees.
can be when a person is applying for the election, at that time Article 62 comes.
Yes, my lord. Because your lordship see, they say
A
that.
prior decree can be.
Yes, they say that, my lord, in paragraph 26, if your lordship sees the quotation. After that, say, we have already observed that a conclusion about a judgment debtor having failings specified in Article 62(1)(f) of the Constitution that emanate or can be derived from a final judicial declaration would cause the permanent incapacity of a candidate for elected office. Again, declaration of a civil nature. And if your lordship turns the page